Word Life Groups. Welcome back. It's the month of June. I got my good friend, Pastor Dom here. I'm repping my Elevate shirt. So I would serve at Elevate. I probably served for maybe a season of 2 years, I believe. And I would wear this shirt every Wednesday like a uniform.
And you looked good in it.
Oh man, I loved it. It was nice because you didn't have to think about what to wear, and you could just
1 day a week. Didn't have that pressure.
It was nice. So one thing, and I know Dom will back me up, are really two things that you really learned from in Elevate and just serving with youth. One is you just learn just the passion of the kids, and it's infectious. And then the second thing you learn is you learn how good or bad the church's insurance policy really is. Is that correct?
It is pretty true.
Yeah.
They've outlawed slip and slides, I guess, forever.
Yep.
You know.
We have had live animals. We've had...
Oh, yeah. Multiple forms of war on Viking nights, at least.
It's an awesome time. I love our youth group. It's a lot of fun. So, well, let's get to it. So we're diving in this month. We're looking, it's the final chapter of John as we're wrapping up our series in John. And so we're looking to this for this life group at the sermon of The Night They Caught Nothing.
That was an excellent sermon.
Oh, it was very good. And so just to kind of set the point up, so we're going to be looking at Ben's third point. So the first point, this is when Peter, he went back to fishing. He brought, I believe, 6 disciples with him. They were supposed to be waiting on the mountain for Jesus. They decided to go fishing instead. And so that's what the whole sermon was about. So the first point was the idea that the Christian life is a call to obedience and trust. The second point was that disobedience and impatience will always prove unfruitful. And the point we're going to be diving into is the third one. The Lord reminds his disciples that he is worthy of their trust. So my question to you, Dom, is what was a time in your life where you just had to trust God and God showed himself to be faithful to you?
About 10 years ago, I was working at a very small church as a youth pastor, and between Jackie's full-time job as a nanny and my full-time job as a youth pastor, we were broke constantly. And right in the middle of a very hot summer, our air conditioning went out in our house, and we had nothing to put towards repairing our air conditioning. And after a couple of days in just opening windows and hoping for the best, I showed up at work, and there was money just on my desk. And it had not been designated to the youth group. It had been designated to us personally. And someone who probably didn't even know what was going on was moved by the Lord to come in and save the day and give us an enormous blessing and get us back in air conditioning again. And the Lord, his timing, sometimes he makes us wait long times, sometimes it's short times. Like the Lord doesn't always answer in some sort of immediate relief like that. But it's kind of cool when you have those stories to remember in the waiting.
It is incredible. I mean, it's incredible. Here you are in need, and then God uses this person who they're just doing a thing, but it's meeting this specific need. It's just how good God is and how faithful that he is just to meet your need.
He's so faithful.
And there's a million stories.
Yeah.
We all have a million stories.
Lives.
And
He's
some of them are
huge.
Mm-hmm. Some of them seem trivial. Like probably in retrospect, this fixing the air conditioner, it's just like a home repair. It's a pretty regular thing. But in the summertime with no money.
And your wife is hot.
And it's like the stress is on and that AC breaks. And life is still happening.
Oh, yeah.
This is
Full
huge.
time.
This is huge. I mean, this is like God opening up those clouds and just doing truly the miraculous.
Yeah.
It is awesome. Our God is good. So, look, we're going to turn you to the point. It's... We dive in, this picking up in that story where Peter's fishing, and just the Lord proves that he is faithful and that he is worthy of their trust, and it's still true today. So life groups, enjoy the point.
The Lord powerfully reveals the greatest lesson of all for these impatient disciples. This is so powerful. Look back to the text. Here's the lesson. The Lord reminds his disciples that he is worthy of their trust. He reminds the disciples, listen, I'm going to take care of you. Listen, to me, this is the point of the whole section, of the whole Hey, go to the mountain, wait in the mountain. The Lord knew what they would do. He knew Peter would be impulsive. He knew Peter would get down there. He's like, look, I got a lesson for this guy, and here's how I'm going to show him. They're going to toil all night for fish. I'm going to make sure those fish don't get in those nets. Then I'm going to come and show them, listen, you can trust me. I am going to provide for you. Look back at the text, John 21. He said to them, cast the net on the right side. You'll find some. So they cast it. They weren't able to haul it in because of the quantity. The disciple whom Jesus loved said to Peter, it's the Lord. Peter jumps in the sea, and the other disciples came in the boat. Listen, a little side note here. Take note of this. We'll come full circle here in a minute. But the other disciples, multiple, came in the boat, dragging the net full of fish, for they were not far from the land. Just put a little pin in that. So think about this. His disciples had come up empty all night. And a stranger stands by the shore. Says, hey guys, how's it going out there? Catch any fish? No. No. It's terrible. I mean, I've gone fishing before and not caught any fish. You're like, what? Oh my God, the water was nice. That's about all you can say. Or like when you go and you play golf, you shoot a really bad score. It's like, well, at least the weather was good. Right? Like, no, we haven't caught any fish. And then the stranger, because they don't know it's Jesus, the stranger says, hey, cast your net on the right side. You'll find some. What? Are you kidding me? Seriously? I can see some of you guys being like, no way. Go back home. Like, we've been out here. But to their credit, what did they do? They probably were just so exhausted, like, oh, well, whatever, this Looney Tune on the beach here. We'll try it again. And then lo and behold, notice that it's after that moment that John recognized. Why do you think that is? This had happened before. Do you remember? Luke chapter 5. And Simon answered, Master, we have toiled all night and took nothing. Peter was used to not catching fish. But at your word, I will let down the nets. And when they had done this, they enclosed a large number of fish, and the nets were breaking. When Simon Peter saw it, he fell down at Jesus' knees, saying, Depart from me, for I am a sinful man, O Lord. So also were James and John, sons of Zebedee, who were partners with Simon. And Jesus said to Simon, Do not be afraid. From now on, you will be catching men. John was in the boat the first time Jesus demonstrated authority over fish. And it clicked. It clicked. Oh, wait a minute. I've seen this before. It's Peter. It's the Lord. It's the Lord. The disciple whom Jesus loved. I love how John describes himself over and over in this gospel, in his own gospel, his own account. The disciple whom Jesus loved, therefore said, it's the Lord. Peter, it's him. And what does Peter do? He did what he always does. He had taken off his outer garment. Some people, I want to clear this up for you. Some people say Peter was fishing naked right here. I don't see any proof in the text he was fishing naked. I think that they had the garments that they wore. He had stripped off his outer garment, which was one that he would wear outside of fishing. He stripped that off. He had clothes on, but he put that outer garment back on, and he jumps in the water. This is what Peter does. He is impulsive. He jumps in the water. He's not going to wait. They weren't that far off from the shore, but he can't wait. It's the Lord. And I think that's pretty true of John and Peter. John was quicker to perceive, and Peter was quicker to react. So what does Jesus have prepared for these disciples when they get back to the land? Look back to our text, the next verses. Verse 9, when they got on the land, they saw a charcoal fire. Put a pin in that one. Can you put a pin in that one? Can you wait for a week? This is going to be so good. Wait for a week. Charcoal fire in place. I bet you can figure it out. Read ahead to the text. Go back and read Peter's denial of the Lord. Charcoal fire. We'll talk about that next week. When they got out on the land, they saw a charcoal fire in place and fish laid on it and bread. And Jesus said to them, bring some of the fish that you just caught. So Simon Peter went aboard. Okay, so do you still have the pin? Let's pull that pin up from what we talked about, the fish. So Simon Peter went aboard and hauled the net ashore full of large fish, 153 of them. You remember earlier it said there was disciples that were dragging the net? Just a little sidebar here. Peter gets the net, and it says he brought it ashore. It doesn't say anything about dragging. It says he brought it ashore. So do you want to know why I think Peter was so influential? The dude was big. The guy was impressive. I mean, I'm just going to have to tell you what I thought of right away. And this is just the honest truth I thought of right away, was I thought of Denny Chase. I don't know if Denny's here. I thought of shaking that man's grip. I thought if Peter looked like Denny Chase. If Denny Chase says, let's go fishing, I'm going fishing. I don't know if you know Denny Chase. He's sitting back there. But like, he just grabbed the fish, and we're going to, here we go. Now notice, here's another evidence of the authority of Scripture and its truthfulness. It says how many fish were in there. 153 of them. They counted them. Why would you put that in there if it wasn't true? Now, the average, this is another little sidebar study here. The average weight of a fish they would have caught would have been about 2 pounds. So do the math. 153 times 2 pounds. That was a big man. He brought it in. Now notice, Jesus said to them, come and have breakfast. Now none of the disciples dared ask him, who are you? They knew it was the Lord. So wow, Jesus has a charcoal fire, fish already cooked, and bread. He's ready. Here's a question for you. How does Jesus catch fish? Fish. That's how he catches fish. Fish. There he is. There it is. He's got it prepared, ready to go. Now notice what he says. Come and have breakfast. And then he serves them. He took the bread and he gave it to them. He took the fish and he gave it to them. I want you to consider this point. The one who had power over fish, who could create fish and catch fish at will, serves the ones who had abandoned him earlier at his arrest, trial, and crucifixion. They had failed to meet his needs, and yet they had toiled all night and were no doubt starving, and he serves them and meets their needs. You remember when Jesus was at his darkest hour, Matthew 26, and going a little further, he fell on his face and praying, saying, my Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as you will. And he came to the disciples and found them sleeping, and he said to Peter, Peter, could you not watch and pray with me for 1 hour? Couldn't meet Jesus' needs, yet Jesus was meeting their needs. He was humbly serving the ones who did not serve him in his darkest hour. This is our Lord. What's the point here? What is Jesus showing his disciples? Listen, he is reminding his disciples that he is worthy of their trust. He is worthy of their trust. They could trust him because it was about to get really difficult for them. They're about to enter one of the most difficult seasons of their life because of the spreading of the gospel and the persecution that would arise. And he is telling them, he's reminding them, listen, I am going to meet every one of your needs. The call for them would be to obey and to trust him. He would meet every one of their needs. And consider this reality. This group of weak and sinful people, God would use to turn the world upside down to advance the kingdom. Isn't it amazing? I love what J.C. Ryle says about these imperfect yet commissioned disciples. Listen to what he says here. These very men who toiled all night in a boat, dragging about a cold, wet net and taking nothing. These very men who find it necessary to work hard in order that they may eat. These very men were some of the first founders of the mighty Church of Christ. These were they who went forth from an obscure corner of the earth and turned the world upside down. These were the unlearned and the ignorant who boldly confronted the evil systems of their day by the preaching of the cross. The Lord is days away from commissioning them to that work in Matthew 28. And what does Jesus say when he commissions them to that work? What does he tell them? To these Jews? He says, go into all the world and preach the gospel to all nations. You got to obey me. You got to trust me. You got to trust me. Go into all the nations. Wait a minute. All the nations? I thought this was just for us. This is the point of the lesson. You're going to have to obey me, guys. You're going to have to trust me. I'm going to take care of you, but you're going to have to go into all the nations. You mean the Gentiles need to hear the message too? Wait a minute. No. That doesn't work. That doesn't work in my world. We're not going to go to the Gentiles. You're going to have to trust me and obey me. You're going to have to believe my word. You're going to have to obey me and go into all the world. Follow my instructions. Trust my plan. I will take care of you. And yes, you have to cast your net on the right side of the boat. You're going to have to cast your net where I tell you to cast your net. You're going to have to evangelize where I tell you to evangelize. And we see that the Jews, the first church, they didn't want to go to the Gentiles. And God had to give a vision to Peter. Peter had to learn the lesson, again, the lesson that is latent in this text, the lesson that's here in this text. Peter didn't learn it till later in the book of Acts. Cornelius, Gentile. God gave Peter a vision. Listen, you got to cast your net where I tell you to cast your net. And there's going to be fish in that net if you'll obey me. And think about it. Look at all these fish that are in the net of Peter. Right here. Gentiles that have been grafted into the kingdom. Isn't that beautiful? Follow my instructions. So the lesson's really straightforward for all of us. The Christian life is a call to obedience and trust. And disobedience and impatience will always prove unfruitful. But the Lord reminds us every day that He is worthy of our trust. Do you believe that? Here's a couple of questions for you to ponder. What is the Lord calling you to do today? What's He calling you to do today? Have you taken things into your own hands? What area in your life? Is there an area in your life where you've taken things into your own hands? God, I got this. I might handle this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to take care of this. Are you waiting patiently on Him? Psalms 37, Pastor Vern read it earlier. Trust in the Lord and do good. Dwell in the land and befriend faithfulness. I love that language. Befriend faithfulness. If you want a friend in your life, let it be faithfulness. Delight yourself in the Lord. He will give you the desires of your heart. Commit your way to the Lord. Trust in Him, and He will act. He will bring forth your righteousness as a light and your justice as a noonday. Trust in Him. Trust in the Lord. Because the truth is, we can be like that young boy. We can say, sure, I'll go over that cliff. I'll get that flower for you. If this man holds the rope, I'll go. God, I'll go wherever. I'll do whatever. I'll obey you. I'll follow you. I'll say yes to what you're telling me to say yes to. I'll say no to what you're telling me to say no to. I will obey you. I'll obey your word. There's an area in my life where I'm walking in sin. I'll obey your word. Because if you're holding the rope of my life, I know I can trust you. I'm not going to stay living in sin. I'm not going to stay in disobedience. If you're calling me to go somewhere, to take a new job, to start a new career, wherever you're calling me to go, I will go because I know if you're holding the rope, you got me. You're going to provide for me. There's going to be breakfast on the beach every day, fish and bread. You'll take care of me. And my call is to obey and to trust. Why? Because the Lord is holding the rope. I love the words of the old hymn, trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus but to trust and obey. Amen.
Well, welcome back, Life Groups. I hope you enjoyed the point. Well, Dom, as we wrap up, and before we turn to the questions, let me just ask you, is there something that the Living Word Life Groups can be partnering with the Elevate Student Ministry in prayer for the month of June?
Absolutely. I'm not sure exactly when you guys will be watching this, but at the beginning of the month, we're going to be having our Elevate Summer Camp, where we're driving our students into Texas, meeting up with a handful of other youth groups, and pouring Jesus into these kids away from the distractions of the world for a week. And this is kind of the highlight of every year. And so if you're meeting at the beginning of the month, prayer for the students that God would plant seeds in them, that this is going to be more than a camp high, but he'll do real transformation in their lives. And if you're meeting probably in the middle towards the end of the month, the prayers that what God did at camp would continue to grow and bear fruit and be genuine course choices for these students. That would be awesome for you guys to pray for. Thank you.
Yeah, we definitely will. I know in my life that I can look back at summer youth camps with my church, and I can to this day still remember where we went, the fun times we had. I can remember real spiritual change and an insight and moments that have still stuck with me to this day.
Yeah, me too.
So life groups it really is. It's an important thing. So let's partner together. I would encourage you at the close of your meeting, just have an intentional prayer specifically for the Elevate student ministry, for the Elevate leaders, because taking these kids, it's a stressful time. And so pray for the leaders, wisdom, the Lord's favor, protection, security, and then also for the kids just to have a heart for Jesus, for it to be authentic, for it to be real, for them to connect with God, connect with one another, and for it to be a real catalyst of life change, both for them, but also for their schools, for our city. The kids, they have influence. So partner with us in prayer. I encourage you, do it. Take advantage of the moment you have right here, but also just make a point to pray for the whole month of June. Let's partner with prayer intentionally for the Elevate student ministry. Well, Life Groups, we thank you for opening up your home, gathering together, and we just wish you the best and enjoy your time together. We love you, and we'll see you next month.